Welcome to the Vegan Transformation. I'm your host, Angela Crawford. I'm a psychologist, a transformational coach, and a vegan lifestyle educator. And I'm passionate about the power of a plant-powered vegan lifestyle to transform our lives in mind, body, and spirit, and to create a kinder, healthier, more sustainable world. On the Vegan Transformation, I hope to inspire and empower you wherever you are on your journey and to give tips and tools to thrive emotionally and feel your best while you're living or moving toward a plant-powered lifestyle. And today I'm really thrilled to introduce you to my guest, Kate Galli. And she's a vegan health coach, a podcaster, author, creator of a beautiful positive journal that we'll share more about later. And just an amazing human being that I can't wait to talk to more today. So, welcome, Kate.
Angela, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yeah, we've gotten to connect through some mutual contacts in the vegan world. And so I'm really glad that we've gotten to meet each other now face to face. So, as we're getting started, there'll be a lot we'll cover today, but it's often helpful to start with your vegan journey and what led you on that path to plant-based and vegan living, and just share about that with us.
Absolutely. So I was that typical little girl who loved animals and ate animals. I'd even declare regularly when I ate meat, sometimes 3 times a day, I could never be vegetarian. And that was until I hit 16 and I had a conversation with a girl at school, and she explained for me to eat these animals, they needed to die first, which seems kind of obvious now in hindsight. And so I went vegetarian basically overnight for the animals. And I will say I didn't do it healthily originally. It was really restrictive. It was basically about the individuals I wasn't eating and the food I was restricting. And it wasn't as abundant by far as the way that I eat now. And sadly, I'd be vegetarian for 23 years until I watched the documentary Cowspiracy, and I learned that if I was vegetarian for the animals, actually I needed to be vegan for the animals. And again, I made that switch overnight, and I had a fair bit of fear, because at that point in time, I had been a personal trainer for about a decade. I'd been following a high protein, low carbohydrate, vegetarian approach to my health and fitness. I had like a body that I was pretty confident in, and I thought, this vegan thing, that's a bit extreme, but it's not about my vanity, it's about the animals. And so I committed. I rocked into the gym where I worked, which was a pretty gym bro type of a gym. I was already the weirdo for being vegetarian. And I announced that I was going vegan. And I remember one of the other trainers said, well, goodbye, lean muscle mass. And, fast forward, he was completely wrong. However, as I said, I did have that hesitation. I thought, I might lose muscle, I might gain fat, I might lose strength, I certainly might lose food joy. And none of that was the case. It's as so many of us say, it's the best decision I've ever made. I wish I made it so much earlier. I will say, and perhaps we'll get into this, I made it so much tougher on myself early days than I needed to. And that's one of the things I love to share now, how people can make the lifestyle simple and abundant and delicious and not exist on those spirulina spoiled smoothies that I had 6 days a week for the first year or so. So that's just a little bit of the journey.
Yeah. Well, you definitely got me curious. I mean, and certainly we can love the spirulina smoothies, but if that's all you eat, it might get a little limiting. So you really got me curious there. How did it transition from that initial like, oh, this is going to be so limiting and making it more difficult for yourself than it needed to be as you found later? How did you make that transition to it being this abundant, fulfilling lifestyle? What happened?
Absolutely. So, to be fair to myself, the pressure came. I felt I had a point to prove, right? I was the vegetarian turned vegan in the gym. I knew that not only the other trainers, but all of our clients would be watching my progress. And I was already like fit and strong and always the positive one. And I thought, if any lack happens, it's going to reflect really badly on the lifestyle. So I wanted to get it exactly perfect. And I researched, I mean, the macronutrients are pretty easy. Everyone says, but protein. Really, the macronutrients are pretty easy. The micronutrients, I went into so much detail so far as the micronutrients that you could possibly miss out on. And I tried to hit all these goals in every single meal, hence the smoothies. That was only breakfast, not for lunch or dinner. They were better. And and so I just put so much pressure on myself. I meal prepped extensively. Now I food prep. It's a lot more relaxed. So I prepare individual components rather than a whole complete meal, which can be a bit boring and a bit time consuming. And I think just bit by bit, I obviously sought out the fit, strong, healthy vegans that had the smoking hot body that I was looking to achieve, right? I saw that these people who share everything they eat online, because we all do, I saw that they ate an abundance of soy. That wasn't something I needed to be fearful of. I used to. I saw that they ate plenty of whole food carbohydrates. Again, no need to be afraid of potatoes and bananas and lentils like I used to as a vegetarian. So I think just bit by bit, I gradually upgraded all these super perfect, overly healthy, bit boring meals to, make over some of those meals that I loved as a vegetarian or loved way back when I ate meat. And just bit by bit, I made the lifestyle so much more abundant and easier, more cost effective gradually to the point where 9 years in, just over 9 years in, genuinely, by far, the most enjoyable and delicious way that I've ever eaten.
Yeah, it sounds really yummy just as you're describing it. What are some of the meals you love to eat now, as you have incorporated, not only being healthy, but it sounds like really focusing on the flavors and the types of foods that you really enjoy. So it's not just about being perfect, but about eating healthy and tastefully. What are some of the things you enjoy now or share with others?
So, one of the huge advantages of being vegan or plant based is you tend to be able to eat huge quantities, which I see as a very happy benefit. The food's generally lower caloric density, something to look out for if you are super active. You don't want to be losing weight unless you want to. But so I eat huge meals with multiple components. I love a bit of crispy, a bit of creamy. My favorite is some sort of big burger bowl or plate where there's cooked veg and salad with a creamy sauce and a burger that often I've made. I didn't used to make my own, but often I make them now, like a chickpea and sweet potato burger is one of my favorites at the moment, or crispy falafel, easy spicy lentils, hummus that's homemade, edamame guac, just a big mix of food, especially at dinner is generally my go-to. And then I'll be pretty lazy, like breakfast. I get up so early, I legitimately might just have like 250 grams of edamame and a couple of heaped tablespoons of hemp seeds, and good to go. It's almost 30 grams of plant protein right there to start the day, and super simple.
Wow. Well, and you mentioned earlier about meal prep versus or food prep versus meal prep. Can you elaborate
Yeah.
on that a little bit, what you meant?
Absolutely. So early days, I'd make like 4 or 5 days worth of, say, for example, I went through phases, but for example, a cauliflower lentil curry. And so I'd put that in the freezer and it would last me 4 or 5 days that week. And maybe the variety might be that I'd have it over zoodles one day and edamame noodles another day and cauli rice another day. It took me a little while to get over my carbohydrate fear. And that's meal prep because you've basically completed the complete meal. Whereas now I prep several food items each weekend. So, for example, this weekend I prepped chickpeas and quinoa and a couple of big trays of baked veggies and also some tofu ricotta. And then I have fun turning them into all different meals. So this week's kind of exciting because I'm running food prep feb in my school community. And the idea is to be really basic with food prep on the weekends and then see how exciting the meals that you can throw together in just a few minutes can be. So the first time round, it was just a little bit of each component. I made the quinoa crispy by putting it in the oven. The next day, I turned the quinoa and the chickpeas and the baked veggies into really simple burgers with some herbs and flaxseed. They were delicious. Last night I made a pasta and I used the baked veggies and edamame noodles and spiralized zucchinis, crispy chickpeas on top, and a sauce out of the tofu ricotta. And then tonight I've turned the chickpeas into chickpea tuna, and I'll have it with cos lettuce leaves and something else. So, yeah, that's just a taste of how it
Oh,
looks
that's
today.
so creative. That is really, really cool. And I mean, it reminds me, what you do on the weekend, a little bit of how sometimes they talk about batch cooking, where
Yeah,
you make a batch of something, the vegetables, the quinoa, the tofu ricotta, just other different things that you can then combine into different meals in different ways. So you're not just having the same thing every day, but yet you're not having to start a meal from scratch every day. I,
same idea, different word, exactly the same thing.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, I've just found for me, like during the week, I don't have time to do a lot of food prep. And so the more I can do some pre-prep on the weekend like that, and be able to pull out meals or components of meals as you're describing, that's really awesome. And it sounds like that's part of what you help your clients with is discovering ways they can do this. So it's doable and delicious.
Absolutely. It needs to be easy. And I will say, don't ever be afraid of a recipe flop, right? That's one of my big suggestions. You've had plenty of bad meat meals in your life, I'm sure. And from
Yes.
time to time, you'll have something that doesn't work
Mhm.
out. My first vegan omelette was definitely a flop. And
Yeah.
now I make an amazing vegan frittata. You stick with it. Some are wins, some are not so amazing, but it's amazing how your confidence builds when you have a few wins and you kind of start to learn, all right, these are the kind of components that need to go together, and these are the interchangeables dependent on season and budget and what needs to be used up. And it's amazing seeing people get more confident with the meals that they're making and then being able to share those meals with others. Because I genuinely think, I used to think, rocking around in a fit, strong, healthy body was the best way to advocate for the animals. And I still think that's vital. However, even more effective, I think, is just making delicious food and sharing that with people.
Yeah. Well, that's really important because um, I think that's a block for a lot of people when they're considering a vegan lifestyle for whatever reasons, whether for compassion for sentient beings, which is the core of what veganism is, but also for health reasons, is if we don't think the food is going to taste good or that it's going to sustain us or nourish us or meet our nutrient needs. And we certainly get messages in society that that are not accurate about we don't really hear about, for example, Dr. Dean Ornish, who reversed heart disease with a plant-based diet, or some of the other amazing research on the benefits of plant-based nutrition. And so being able to show, as you're describing, that the food is delicious, it's really opening up your food palette and your food choices in ways like I know, as you're describing, I never saw that coming and either until I became plant-based and then vegan. That wow, actually, my food choices have opened up so much, rather than being restricted.
I completely agree. So much more diversity than what there used to be. And, I had foods that I was fearful of that I thought were just so hard, like lentils. I thought lentils were really hard. Actually, they're such a high value, cheap, versatile plant protein that I now cook a batch at least once a week, often twice a week. For instance, in cooking and flavoring your lentils while you're listening to a great podcast, it really does not take long at all. And when the cost of everything else is going up so much right now, I think it's a really great strategy.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. Lentils are so nutritious, so packed with protein and iron and calcium and
Yeah.
fiber, all the things that just really nourish our body. It's great to find these things you can incorporate that are affordable and healthy. So that's really awesome. As you move towards a vegan lifestyle and if you've been learning ways to overcome some of the practical challenges, um, what have been some of the ways that being vegan has benefited you, not only, physically, certainly include that, but also emotionally, mentally, in other ways? How have you benefited from your plant-based journey?
the largest way is definitely the big weight of incongruency that potentially I wasn't aware of. I lived vegetarian for the animals, and maybe at the back of my mind, I knew there was something more. I often think, did I ignore that video? Did I walk past a vegan on the street showing footage of slaughterhouses? I have no recollection of ever doing that. However, I know there was a weight on me because I felt it lifted. When I became vegan, I just felt so much more congruent and aligned with the compassionate person I wanted to be. And bit by bit, and I've seen this happen with so many other people as well, bit by bit, your heart opens. You're not having to keep it clenched, closed to all of this cruelty that you can't deal with because you're not going to act yet. Bit by bit, your heart opens, not just to the animals, but to the planet gradually. And this was the hardest learning for me. Gradually, it opens more to other people as well, particularly the non-vegans around you. That is the hardest part of the journey by far, hands down, no doubts. And so that was definitely the biggest change that I experienced. Physically, I was really happy with my health. I don't know how long I would have gotten away with like the super kind of high protein, low carbohydrate approach that I had going for me. But, I was still, I guess, kind of young. I was 39 when I went vegan, so it was still working for me. However, I probably knew to some degree that my approach to eating wasn't that balanced. So it was typical extreme personal trainer. Ashamed to admit there were days when I would have 21 free range organic egg whites in one day and two whole eggs. So it wasn't balanced. It got me the results that I wanted visually. However, I probably knew that it was extreme, and the way that I eat now just it feels the exact opposite of extreme.
Yeah, eating an abundance of whole plant foods that, meet your nutritional needs. Yeah, I can see the difference and the peace of mind that you found when you took this value you had of compassion for sentient beings and decided, I'm going to face what happens here and make a choice that's different, that honors my values. And while certainly there's many industries that harm animals, food, part of why we end up talking about food a lot as vegans is that is probably the biggest choice we make every day that causes harm to animals, even though there's so many others as well, certain clothing and certain products. But food, we all eat every day. We have to eat. And so that's a choice that really we have to come to terms with how that affects other beings. And, when we do it, we either, like you say, push it down and don't want to acknowledge that whole process, which is also what I did for many, many years, or we face it and decide, hey, I'm gonna make a change. We deal with that cognitive dissonance by actually taking action rather than just kind of pushing it down or justifying it.
Absolutely. And when you're blocking something, it is taking up so much energy. You are wasting so much energy not dealing with something. You mightn't be aware of how much energy until you actually deal with it. But think of a completely different example. Think of the person that doesn't do their taxes for 6 years. And for 6 years, they're freaking out about it. And then finally they get up on top of it. It's not nearly as bad as what they expected. And they're back on track and not wasting energy. The dealing with the cruelty that you're still contributing to if you're eating animals and exploiting them in other ways, dealing with it is not nearly as hard as what you might expect. And the benefits are so much more than what you might expect.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I felt an unexpected freedom. First becoming vegetarian, and no longer eating meat, and then even more so when, like you, I kind of realized that if I truly was being compassionate for animals, I needed to think about letting go of dairy and eggs too, and other products that exploited animals. And but there was a freedom that came with it that really surprised me that like I don't have to. I guess I was raised to believe, I grew up in the Midwest of the United States where we have a lot of farms and stuff. And I was raised to believe, like many of us, that you had to have meat and dairy to thrive. And it sounds like in,
Mhm.
your industry and fitness, you certainly got that message. So it was very freeing when I read more and learned more and realized, not only does this honor my compassion, but it actually is going to help me. It's not
100%.
it's not a choice in either or. Um, it's a both and it's very freeing to realize that. And then add in the taste and the abundance that you didn't even know could be there on top of it. So
Completely agree.
yeah. Yeah, and that actually in my research for my forthcoming book, The Vegan Transformation, that came out, what you just described was one of the top things that people described about how being veganism transformed them was this alignment with values that surprised many people that it would impact them so much. But just like you, a lot of other people feel that once they make that choice. So yeah, you're not
I
alone.
agree. Aligning your values with your goal or vision is the first thing that I always go to with any health or fitness goal. Once you're in alignment, it just makes the daily actions you need to take so much more easy. It basically eliminates the decision making process. There's no energy wasted on do I, don't I? Do I, don't I exercise today? Well, it's in the training plan. I do. It's non-negotiable. Do I, don't I eat that animal product? I'm vegan, non-negotiable. Of course I don't. Like it just, you're not wasting energy on those pointless decisions. You've decided once, you've made sure it's aligned with your top values, whatever you are most drawn to, freedom and integrity for me. And it just makes everything flow so much more easily and so much more sustainably.
Yeah, bringing your actions together with core values and having a lifestyle that supports that. And definitely, I know in your journal, which we're going to talk more about in a moment, you've created a beautiful journal. You have some prompts and things that support people on that journey. So I definitely want to come back to that. Before we do, just one more question. Were there any changes health-wise when you went vegan? I know you were fearful at first that you might not sustain your fitness goals, but what did you actually discover as you went fully plant-based, fully vegan?
There genuinely weren't. Like, I was fearful of gaining fat or losing muscle or losing strength. That didn't happen at all. I'm 48 now, 49 this year, and I feel like it probably has made it slightly easier for me to maintain the level of leanness that I prefer. I know I've heard from a lot of women that it gets harder after 40. To be fair, I heard it gets harder after 30 as well in that way. Like, I think our daily actions are a lot. However, also when you start to hit perimenopause, I know it can get a lot harder for a lot of women. I think having that vegan and that primarily whole food plant based, thus far, I think it really has been an advantage. So, definitely only advantages.
Yeah. And I would guess, you were at a healthy time in your life when you made the switch, but I have to imagine it's helped your cardiovascular health to eat this kind of high fiber, low fat, plant powered, high antioxidant way, whether you have measurements to show that or not, it seems like it would have to have a positive impact.
I did get the bloods done again because it was, I'd kind of bought into all the fear that mainstream media and general society, sells us about the disadvantages to a vegan lifestyle. So I got them done to know what my status quo was, and I've got them done every couple of years or so. And again, absolutely no issues. I don't think, as you hinted at, I wasn't starting from a bad place. Yes, I ate too many egg whites. However, I ate a lot of fresh vegetables, even as a vegetarian, not very processed at all. So yeah, it's only been good.
Awesome. Well, I'd love to hear more, and have you share about your work, both the work you do in your local community as well as what you're offering online and about we want to hear about your podcast and also this plant power positive journal too. So if you can share about your work.
Thank you for asking. The vast majority, perhaps even all now, of what I do is online, which
Oh,
is amazing because at the end of 2023, I left the big city, Sydney, And I'd been there for 25 years, working full time as a personal trainer while also doing everything online. And I moved to a much smaller town, Noosa, in another state. And the goal was always to be exclusively online, as you and I were talking about before. You know, vegans are 2 to 3%, right? As a personal trainer in a gym, there really aren't that many people that are interested in
Mhm.
a vegan lifestyle. So I need a broader audience. I've had that for about a decade with the Healthification podcast, where I interview passionate and compassionate authors, activists, entrepreneurs, doctors, athletes, and that's absolutely my heart. You only can continue a podcast that long if it's just a highlight of your week, which it is for me. I legitimately interview heroes, and that's amazing. And then the latest, I guess, project of my heart is the Plant Positive Journal. Version one came about because my dear mum many years ago gifted me a gratitude diary for Christmas, and it was the most exquisite diary, daily planner. It had artwork. Each month it talked about the moon and the stars, and I never read that. I wasn't very interested. It was just beautiful to plan my day to come, focus on my gratitudes, all of that. I thought, what if there was a vegan version that shared vegan recipes and vegan artwork, and you could use it as a daily planner, which is how I use it. However, maybe bit by bit, you start to actually read those monthly and weekly writings, and you start to, little vegan seeds are gently planted. And I share basically all the strategies that I've learnt over nearly 2 decades as a personal trainer surrounding creating the most effective mindsets to make your best eating and exercising actions simple and sustainable. So, all those lessons, because it really is about mindset first. Doesn't matter how good your exercise or nutrition is if you don't have the mindset to implement consistently, locked and loaded. So that's how the journal came about, and version two was released last year, dedicated to my dear mum. It's so much more beautiful. Version one exceeded all my expectations. Version two, so much more beautiful. I'm super proud of that. Use it all day, every day. And so that's my heart. My third heart is my online school community, Plant Positive, which is a safe space for vegans and the plant based curious. I want us both to be able to interact with kindness and compassion, not judgments, and learn from each other and support each other. And for it to be the exact opposite of social media, which I have such a love hate, mostly hate relationship with. I think social media isn't the least bit safe for vegans. And the people who are the harshest to vegans are other vegans often. So, Plant Positive is a really safe space for people to get together. We do quarterly Plant Positive jump starts where you have a focus on one goal for the month. And this month it's food prep feb. And so basically, that's where I'm spending most of my time these days.
First of all of that it's amazing, and we'll certainly make sure we have links for people to learn about, more about all of that. I know is the primary way where people connect with you your website, and can you name that for us?
Correct. Thank you. Strongbodygreenplanet.com. It connects to the Plant Positive Journal, the Healthification podcast, and then Plant Positive on the school platform.
Awesome. So they can find all of that through there. And I want to say, something about the journal because I recently purchased it. I think I first heard about it a year ago when I heard you on a podcast, and then I decided, well, this year I want to purchase it. Partly because I love journals and planners, and then, and certainly love the message of yours. And I thought also by me knowing about it, it's something that I can share with other people that, would benefit from it. And it is beautiful. And I think, is that your artwork in it?
In version two, it is. Version
Wow.
one, it wasn't. And version two, I used Midjourney AI art. I had such a struggle in version one to communicate. Like I studied fine arts and graphic design, but art never brought me pleasure, really. It was all about pain and it didn't come easily. And I remember even at school in my artwork, I'd be drawing tortured animals. Like it was always, it was a form of activism, even when I was 15, 16, even before I was vegetarian, right? but it didn't come easily. And in version one, I just could not effectively communicate my ideas to a human to get the artwork out there. So, version two, I taught myself AI art, and it reignited my joy for art. It's amazing. I had so much fun with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's
I'm
pretty
going to
cool.
grab mine real quick. Hold on a sec.
Of course. Amazing.
So here's the journal.
I love to
Um,
see it. I've got mine too.
and just like the photos, there's just such beautiful pictures and photos, and as well as prompts, daily planning, where you can plan for the day with little quotes and things to inspire you. And then in between each week, recipes as well as steps, things like aligning your values with your goals and, even identifying what your values are, just so many things that can help us on our journey to better health, towards better well-being, sustainable well-being, and incorporating that with either moving toward or living in a more plant-powered way and adding a little more compassion to ourselves and others along the process. So I highly recommend it. And definitely that'll be in the notes to the description for people to learn more about. So
Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to make something so beautiful that people would want to use it. That's really important. And on the self compassion, I made sure to include a Sunday self care tip each week because I think that is something we can absolutely neglect no matter where we are on our vegan plant-based journey. It can seem so urgent, the changes that we're looking to make in ourselves and in the world. And so that Sunday self-care is everything I do, it's a reminder to myself, right? The things that I create, it's like, hey, I need this, maybe other people do too.
yeah, definitely. I was looking at the quote for today. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. From James Clear, I
James
imagine
Clear.
Atomic Habits, which is a
Yeah,
great book.
I had him on the podcast in an absolute pinch myself moment. So yeah, James is amazing.
Oh, you've done amazing. Gosh.
Don't
But
know how
yes,
that happened.
yes. Well, I love your podcast too. Definitely one that I would recommend people check out for just all aspects of healthy and compassionate and plant-based and vegan living. And just like you say, so many amazing people that you talk to. And yeah, the community is a great step forward. And it sounds like it offers support through things like the Kickstarts and the other, just the community itself for people on this journey, a positive support.
Absolutely. As I said, a safe space, somewhere to come hang out, have your questions answered. I love that, I can talk for hours, right? But other people are jumping in and contributing and starting their own threads. And that's the only way you have a community.
Yeah,
So definitely, yeah, I'm excited to see where that goes.
great. Well, any final thoughts? Like if someone listening were either curious about moving towards more of a vegan lifestyle, or maybe they're already on it, but just need encouragement, any final thoughts or words you want to end with for today?
Always a couple of things, probably. As I mentioned, the first thing I always jump to is getting really clear on your why, right? I would add whether you're there or you're just thinking of becoming vegan or more plant-based, get really clear on your personal why. Add huge emotional intensity to that. With any big lifestyle change, it's going to be harder and take longer than you expect. And your relationships, as I hinted at, are probably going to be the toughest part of that, not the food. So you need huge emotional intensity around your why. I really do recommend aligning that why, or more so the actions you need to take to achieve that why, with your most important values, as we also mentioned. And I would also say, whether you're just starting or you're already there, there's no such thing as a bad vegan. I'm grateful for anyone that is just plant curious. Move forward at your own pace, at your own pace. Seek out the mentors online, they can be free, that, you look up to, that can support you. I just started a one-on-one coaching program, and I've run the first few clients through it for free. And my very first client who gave me the most amazing feedback, he said, I was really fearful of this with you. It was an amazing opportunity. I felt like I won the lotto. However, I was actually really fearful because you're so clear and certain and passionate in your goals, and I thought you might judge me. I was a bit scared. And actually, as I shared with him, and I want to share with everyone, if you are open minded and open hearted enough to at least give it a try, I am so grateful for that. Wherever you are on your journey, just keep going at your own pace. And people like Angela and I, we have your back, right? All love, all support, we have your back.
Awesome. And you said something that I just want to ask briefly about before we wrap up, because I think it's important. And it is this idea that sometimes as we become vegan, it is hard for us when we want everyone to become vegan. And, and as I think you alluded to, we can sometimes find ourselves being judgmental or frustrated when people don't understand either our own reasons for becoming vegan or see them for themselves. What's helped you to bring compassion, to humans wherever they are on their journey? Because it sounds like that's been a shift for you over time.
I'll try to keep it brief. This was the hardest lesson learnt in the hardest possible way. I was very much the judgy, angry vegan. I was so passionate and so disappointed and frustrated in everyone around me who wasn't following the same path. I felt like they didn't understand me and they didn't care about me because they couldn't understand why this was so important to me. My dear mum became plant based a few years into my journey, and we were already close. It brought us so much closer because I had so much respect for her decision to become plant based and eventually vegan, even though my father was completely not supportive. And then just over 3 years ago, my dear mum actually died suddenly. I spoke to her on a Sunday morning. I got the phone call from my father on the Sunday afternoon that I always thought I'd get from my mother, because my mother was the most vibrant, warm, generous, loving person you could possibly meet. My dad's not. Instead of the Katie, it's your dad call, I got the Kate, it's your mother call, and she was gone. And two things happened, Angela. With the toughest time in your life, you have no energy for that anger and sadness at the non-vegans because you are so overwhelmingly just wrapped up in grief and pain for the loss, which I was. And the second thing was I realized with my mum, I have no regrets. We both know how much we loved and respected each other. I understood that if that had been my father, I would have had regrets because my judgment of him, and I'm quoting Jeff Palmer here, he learned that his judgment of his father was blocking his father's love.
Mm.
And it was the same for me.
Mm.
My judgment, whether I meant it to be coming out or not, it was blocking his love. I would have had regrets if he was gone. So, it's a constant daily struggle. I'll be frank. I share that I now lead with love and compassion and deliciousness, and that is absolutely my goal as a way to honor my mum, because that was her approach. However, that angry little vegan animal rights activist, Kate, she wants to show her head from time to time, most days actually.
Mhm.
But I just remind myself of what is most effective, and that's what I strive to do.
Well, that really touched my heart, and I could so resonate with it on so many levels. Having lost parents, and just the feelings that come with that loss that make you realize what really matters, and like you say, not wanting regrets or. And on top of that, I think, even beyond our vegan passion, there's so many differences we can have with people in the world. And so to be in this place of judgment or othering people, it's not helping us move towards the compassionate world. We want to see if we're not being compassionate, if we're not, working through our stuff, even though it may come up, and trying to find that balance of being passionate and compassionate at the same time. So, uh,
Completely agree. Call it veganism, politics, religion, whatever you care most about that has created conflict in your life with the people you love most. Again, it's a matter of reminding yourself what's most effective and striving your very best to lead with effective and, as you said, lead with love and compassion.
Yes, yes, because I do believe it's through connection that we create change, and just as you're doing in your work. And so, wow. Well, thank you so much, Kate. This is very, very moving and just I think will be very helpful to people that tune in. So I want to just thank everyone for joining in today with the vegan transformation. And I hope if this time in our interview was helpful for you, that you'll consider subscribing and you'll also share this with others that you think will benefit. And also definitely check out the information in the description to follow up with Kate and just to take your steps forward. And so hopefully you'll join us again soon. Thank you again so much, Kate.
Thank you so much, Angela.
Have a great rest of the day, everybody, and we'll see you soon.